Mike Freno Mullen, we lost a 5-loss team, and that's why Ohio State shouldn't be in the playoffs. Okay, whatever. RJ, who do you think will win the Big 12 championship between Iowa State and Oklahoma? I mean, it's Oklahoma's conference until somebody chooses to say otherwise or makes it true otherwise. Not going to pick against Oklahoma. It belongs to them. Like, OU has played in the conference championship game 12 times. That's twice as many as the next closest team, Texas. Oklahoma has, they won 10 Big 12 championships with Bob Stoops as head coach, and Lincoln Riley's never lost the Big 12 championship. So how do you pick against them? I understand this is not what Iowa State fans want to hear, but like, till you knock them off, it's their conference. Eric Ram says, go Bucks. Trying to see if there's anything else we need to get in here. This might be a short one, man. See what your questions are like. If y'all got any good questions. A&M is officially out of it with Florida choking at home as the 21-point favorite. I think so, but apparently I'm not the person that makes that decision. So we'll see, man. I wouldn't put ampersand U in there. Then again, I also think that, putting Coastal Carolina in there is not that big a deal. They're undefeated. I mean, if Clemson beats Notre Dame, I'd knock both the ACC guys out, but that's just me. Doc Winston, Boogie says, stay low, boys. Keep those feet moving. Love Friday Night Lights, man. Let's see, what do you say? Man, I guess there were people in here that didn't think I was going to show up. There was no reason to be here until the rankings were up, and they were late putting them up by like 5 minutes. Chill. Any chance LSU reconsiders their bowl ban? No, man. No. You want to get out of here. Like, that was your bowl game. Congratulations going into the swamp, getting a victory. 3-5 LSU versus 3-5 Rutgers. Let's see. What do you think about Coach Mullen's shot at Ohio State? He's trying to protect his team. I mean, they lost. I said this last night on ESPN Radio doing game night with Jeff Dickerson. Dan Mullen took exactly the wrong take, okay? You lose, you don't play in a playoff. We don't have that anymore. I hate that. In a 14 playoff, we can't have a 2-loss team in there. And yet, we're going to contemplate a conference champion because conference championships are part of the criteria. But if USC were to win and they're undefeated, I wouldn't have a problem with the Pac-12 champion going into the playoff and leaving the Big 12 champion out. I think the conference championships matter, especially in this year where Notre Dame decided to join up with the ACC. So we'll see, man. I think that whoever gets the 4 spot's going to get boat raced by Alabama, though. Like, just destroyed, because Alabama's a juggernaut. I picked them in January. And I knew they were going to be good, but I didn't think they were going to be this good, especially after giving up all the points to Ole Miss and 647 yards of offense. I'm interested to see what the committee seems to think about that, though, because they have demonstrated they value Ohio State, they value Clemson, they value Notre Dame, and they value Alabama. So, Clemson beats Notre Dame, they'll probably just flip 2 and 3. And Ohio State probably gets that 4 spot. And then we got a Sugar Bowl with Alabama and Ohio State. Though I would really love it if, for whatever reason, we had Alabama versus Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, because nothing makes me smile more than Yankees coming down to New Orleans in the South, seeing how they really get down and seeing how much they really don't like the Irish. And I would get the Rose Bowl featuring Ohio State and Dabo Swinney, which is awesome because Dabo Swinney is talking mad noise about Ohio State too. And we can take that all the way back to Woody Hayes and punching dude in the throat, who was a Clemson player. It's good. Plus, Dabo has owned Ohio State. It's there, right? And Ohio State should have won that game last year. You could throw it on the incompletion that probably should have been a fumble. Chris Olave slipping in the end zone. There's a lot of different ways you could go with this. But the fact of the matter is, Clemson won the game. Ohio State wants Clemson in the worst way, and I want that for Ohio State. I want Clemson that want Ohio State because that's what college football is awesome for. It's awesome. I can't wait for I really want that to happen. Looking for more questions. Let's see. Notre Dame can hang with any team this year. Tell it to Louisville. Tell it to Louisville. Louisville. A baseball game against that trash football team. Stop it. Let's see. Is Brees better than Etienne? Going into this year, I would have told you no. Based on what we've seen, got to say yes, man. Travis Etienne had 18 yards rushing, or 28 yards rushing on 18 attempts against Notre Dame. I like to think that Iowa State could probably run the ball against anybody, and Breece Hall is a big reason as to why. Who is the best offense that Bama has faced? That could be only wrenching their plans. Still think they are number one, but they might not be prepared. The best offense they faced was Ole Miss. Okay? And Lane Kiffin can score on anybody, right? But I also think that you don't have the offense if you're Notre Dame to play with Alabama's defense. And because they can, if you get into a shootout with them, they'll win. Like, that's something you couldn't say about Alabama until Tua Tagovailoa ascended to that quarterback position. I guess you could say a little bit with Blake Sims, a little bit, when they decided to modernize the offense and stop playing murder ball. But Alabama being able to score 45, 50 a game, good night. Like, they've always been able to recruit defensively. They've always been able to fix their defense. They've always been able to lock people up. Now they can score 50 on you? Like, that's it, man. That's reaching that upper level where your mind, body, and soul must be one. Like, that's what that is. That is Brawley with the blonde hair just growing all the way back. That is Super Saiyan Blue, dog. Like, ain't nobody coming near Alabama this year. It's fun, though. Let's see, Max Johnson is going to be the next Joe Burrow. No, the hell he is not. No, he's not, dog. Enjoy the win. Stop that. Let me see. Let's see what else got in here. Florida season is over regardless. I mean, they might make the Orange Bowl. It'd be them or A&M, I think. Perhaps. So, yeah. I mean, it's there. What happens if Florida beats Alabama? Then Alabama gets in. Florida won't. And we're going to have mass chaos. Like, I was actually thinking about this. Like, what happens? The carnage happens if Northwestern beats Ohio State. Like, think about that. Think about Northwestern beats Ohio State, Florida beats Alabama, and Clemson beats Notre Dame. You could end up with Clemson at number 1, Notre Dame at number 2, Alabama at number 3, and then you have decisions to make, right? Do you put in a 1-loss Northwestern that beat what you thought was the 4th best team in the country? Do you put in a 2-loss Florida against the number 1 team, unanimous number 1 team in the country? Do you put in A&M because they only lost to Alabama, but Florida beat Alabama? Like, do you put in the Pac-12 champ who's 6-0? Like, there's decisions to be made here, man. Like, so carnage for me is Northwestern beats Ohio State, Florida beats Alabama, Clemson beats Notre Dame. Then it all gets thrown out. It gets torn up and thrown asunder. Goodness me. Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. It could be a lot of fun. Texas A&M has better resume than Clemson. Clemson ain't beat nobody. Clemson's only losses to an undefeated Notre Dame. Texas A&M's only losses to an undefeated Alabama. Haven't actually seen Alabama get tested by anybody other than Ole Miss. I mean, you can make that argument if you want to, but that's not what what Clemson is. Excuse me, that's not what the committee is saying. The committee is saying they value Clemson. They seem like, at least the Associated Press poll seems to value Texas A&M. We'll see if the playoff rankings value Texas A&M, because they're right there at 5. And, you hand Clemson an L here, maybe ampersand U sneaks in there just based on the rankings. Because that's what you have to really look at when you're evaluating who gets into the playoff. How much further away are you from that 4th spot than anybody else? And A&M is right there hovering. A&M fans are going to start stumping hard for their team to get in the playoff because they're right there. They ought to be the biggest Notre Dame fans in the world next weekend. Because if you're just judging by the distance, Cincinnati's also there. So they're hoping that A&M loses, as does perhaps a Clemson, right? Maybe they get in. There's a lot there. There's a lot to get in. The Bearcats can get in, I think, if Northwestern beats Ohio State, if Florida beats Alabama, if Notre Dame beats Clemson. They're in. But that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a ton, right? And at that point, you might actually be talking about Coastal Carolina, who has more ranked victories than Cincinnati. Think about that. Coastal Carolina beat a ranked ULL, beat a ranked BYU, and now has an opportunity to beat a ranked ULL once again. Cincinnati's first opportunity to beat a ranked opponent, I think outside of like Southern Methodist, I want to check the math on this, would be Tulsa. And depending on how you feel about Tulsa, and it seems like the AP voters don't feel that great about Tulsa, that might actually hurt Cincinnati. Like that's a really interesting place to be, I think. Because if I'm Cincinnati, I'm thinking, are you going to penalize us for not having played somebody? Well, we're penalizing USC for not having played somebody, and they play in, quote-unquote, a Power 5 league. Go ahead and take a look at what's going on here with Cincinnati and Tulsa, man. Because, make sure I get Cincinnati's schedule correct. It's going to take me a minute to pull this up. Give me a second. Let's see. Cincinnati. Cincinnati played a ranked opponent. Doesn't look like not at all. No. None of their opponents are ranked. None of them. So, man, we'll see. Goodness me. All right. There we go. Let's see what else we got in here. Yeah, for the committee, they're hoping that Ohio State wins, that Clemson wins, and that Alabama wins, and then they get to keep their four the same. I agree with Farino on that. So we got in here. Wait a second. Did Gus Malzahn just get fired? Gus Malzahn just get fired? Did that happen? Gus Malzahn got fired. Holy smokes. Wow. Gus Malzahn got fired. Wow. Sunday afternoon, the Tigers parted ways with their longtime head coach, Gus Malzahn. Goodness me. Wow. Kevin Steele is going to run the team. Oh, man. Malzahn might end up at Illinois or Arizona. Golly. Malzahn is out. That's wild. Like he was dancing after getting a win last night. Wow. Okay, let's go do some more digging on this. This is what I like, man. Talking about breaking news. I guess they expected him to win what? The SEC title? Golly. He's 0-4 against Alabama in Tuscaloosa and 0-4 against Georgia in Athens. 0-4 against LSU in Baton Rouge. Wow. That's whoa. Okay. $21.45 million buyout for him. That's stupid. Nick Saban and Gus Malzahn coexisted for 8 years, which is the longest for Alabama and Auburn football coaches since Paul Bryant and Ralph Jordan. That's wow. So now I gotta be able. I gotta wonder if Texas starts to think about Tom Herman yet again. Would you bring in a Gus Malzahn? What other jobs might come available if they know they can get Gus Malzahn? And the way that we've seen these athletic directors want to move, like Blake Anderson had resigned, and hours later it felt like Butch Jones was in the seat, right? It's the people are trying to move really quickly on these issues. Like South Carolina went after Shane Beamer just as soon as they found out Billy Napier didn't want the job. And that's the other thing. Who wants the job at Auburn? Is it Billy Napier, right? At ULL? Is it Jamie Chadwell at Coastal Carolina? Is it Lance Leipold at Buffalo? Is it Clark Lee at Notre Dame? Like, there's a lot of guys that could go into this job and get a win. But I know what y'all are thinking because y'all are my people, and I'm going to just put that in there. What y'all are thinking is that you need the burner phone. You need the burner phone in Auburn, Alabama. That's what you need. You need Mr. Escort himself. You need Hugh Freeze down at Auburn. Get fired up about that. Hugh Freeze, who says, I'm going to stay at Liberty. I like being at Liberty. Now that the Auburn job is open, is that how you really feel? Would you like to come back down to the SEC West, baby? Do you want these problems once again? Do you want them? This time, it's like my man told Lane Kiffin on the tarmac when he took the Ole Miss job. Get yourself a burner phone, all right? Get yourself a burner phone. Do you look at Barry Odom, defense coordinator at Arkansas? Do you just make Kevin Steele the head coach? Like, there's lots to unpack here. Wow. This could be fun. This could be fun. Josh Heupel would be an interesting hire at Auburn. Coming out of Central Florida. What he did at Missouri. Won a national championship at Oklahoma. The last one. Torrance Marshall found out Chris Winkie won the Heisman. Said, I came to get my boys Heisman back. Yo! Like, there's some moves to be made here, man. There's some moves to be made here. Gus Malzahn is also going to be one coveted offensive coordinator. Because if he doesn't get a head coaching job, somebody's willing to fire their head coach or their offensive coordinator to go get Gus Malzahn. You know that, right? Chad Morris just got that offensive coordinator job, too. He just got it, man. He's going to I wouldn't be surprised to find out he moves back to Dallas or Springdale and just starts driving over to see his kid play football for the next 3 years. That's going to be interesting, man. Wow. Okay. Do you look at Alex Grinch, defense coordinator at Oklahoma? Just throwing it out there. Or what other guys would you be looking at around here? I feel like we can go through it, like Joe Moorhead at Oregon, though I think getting him back in the Big Ten would be interesting. Him being the head coach at Illinois would be interesting. Do you look at Graham Harrell at USC? That's interesting. I like that. Bring the air raid into Auburn. Somebody that's going to match up with Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin. And, Steve Sarkisian for that matter. Texas A&M for that matter. And Jimbo Fisher. Do you take a look at Joe Brady and say, hey, can we get you out of the NFL and bring you into Auburn and be our next young and up-and-coming offensive genius? Is that what you do? Do you look at Todd Monken over at Georgia and say, hey, we remember you were once pretty good at this. I know the Southern Miss thing didn't go the way you wanted to, but want to give it another go, right? Do you look at Dan Lanning, defense coordinator at Georgia, or Glenn Schulman, the linebackers coach at Georgia? There's lots of places to look around here. You know who else is in there over there? Charlie Strong is a staffer at Alabama right now. It's a short drive. Give me the first black head coach in Auburn history. Go ahead, give it to me. Give it to me. Let Charlie Strong be first time black head coach at 2 major universities. Bring it to me. Nah, man, that's wild. That's really interesting. Man, and at a time when we've seen we've seen 3 out of the last 4 jobs. Yeah. In this week, Kevin Sumlin, Derek Mason, and Lovie Smith have all been fired. Ooh. Yeah, this is going to be fun, man. This is going to be fun. I'm trying to think, Steve Sarkisian wouldn't take that job, would he? At Auburn? I don't think so. Huh. Wow, that's interesting. All right. That, I think, is going to do it for me. I'll have more things to say about this later in the afternoon. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the show. Try to do about a half an hour about the rankings, take some questions in the mailbag, and we'll see what happens there. Mike Stoops to Auburn, of course. If you like the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Upload video every single day, several times a day. I get tongue-tied, tongue-twisted because I'm having so much fun over here, and I appreciate all of y'all for coming through and joining on this very cool moment where we get to talk about, our time, college football. All right, I will catch y'all on the flip side. Deuces.